Hello and welcome to The Prosperous Musician. My name's Spence and I'm very pleased to be here tonight talking to you. This is where we talk about making money in music. So are you a musician? Are you a singer-songwriter? Are you a guitar vocal act? Are you in a band? Are you a producer? You own a record label? Are you a music manager? Are you a professional musician? Are you semi-professional? Are you amateur with aspirations to make money out of music, to make music your career? Then if you are any of those things I just mentioned, then this could be the channel for you. This is where we professional musicians, people who are already making a living or starting to make a living at it. I'm assuming at this point that you've got the skills at the beginning when you haven't even started yet, but maybe you're semi-pro, maybe you're pro, but you want to get more gigs. And this is a way to position yourself in a place where there's more traffic. And of course, we all know that if you playing a gig, it's going to be the same amount of effort, no matter what you charge. So a £50 gig is the same amount of effort as if you charge a £2,000 gig, right? So you may as well charge more. I mean, we're going to get into the reasons why you should raise your prices. And that's one of them, about the effort, right? So you would be putting just as much effort into a 50, 60, 70 pound gig or dollar, let's say, as you would for one that's maybe 2 or 3 times the price. So go high, go as high as you can. And it's not what you think, really. It's not really based on skill, although that has a big element to it. But if you did the Pepsi challenge with a very skilled artist and one who's really good at marketing themselves and can put on a reasonable show, then you probably find that the one who can, who's reasonably good but great at marketing, would do better and earn more than the person who's just good at what they do but not really good at marketing. And that's the truth. Now, if you put those two together, if you're really skilled and you're good at marketing, then whoa, the sky's the limit. But often you'll find the case that a lot of people who are just naturally gifted and wizard at their instrument probably aren't that good at marketing themselves. And so, yeah, if they're that good, then they get picked up by record labels and management, and then they do it for them. But we're talking about this day and age, that's becoming less and less the norm. It's becoming, even if you're super talented, it's more that you're going to be, for a certain amount of time, you're going to be managing yourself. You're going to be creating your own, getting your own gigs and moving yourself, putting yourself out there. So I'm just aiming this at people who want to position themselves in a different way. Now, so you should never compete on price. Always go for more than the market will bear. And the reasons for that are numerous, really. So first of all, so why would you compete on price? Well, people compete on price because they see it's like a normal thing to do, isn't it? You see sale everywhere you go. It's sale, 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 you know. And of course, big companies, and we're talking about products here, not services necessarily, but it gets in the psyche that people will see reducing your price as a strategy, no matter it's a product or a service. And because people are motivated by price, and that's true, you will probably get more gigs if you go cheap or free. But those kind of gigs aren't the gigs you want to be playing. And plus the fact, you know, if you're doing this professionally, then you're going to have to do 2 or 3 or 4 as many times gigs. 4 as many times gigs. Can't speak. You have to do more gigs for to get the same amount of money. So it's easier to charge £1,000 for one gig rather than get 5 £200 gigs. So think of it like that. Plus the fact you will, the cheaper the gig you go, the more you will resent it, which means you won't put as much of yourself into it. You won't give as much if you're playing for less money. The other reason is that the people who are booking you won't respect you as much. They're almost assuming, they're already assuming, no matter how good you are, if you accept a gig for less than the market rate. Now, when we talk about less than the market rate, that's up to you to do your research. Depends on the kind of act you are, how long you've been going, on the area, on the gig, on the venue. It really varies. So really have to, this is where you have to do your own homework. Find out what the going rate is, but also find out what your going rate is. And what I mean by that is, what do you need to earn? Now that's a personal economy. What do you need to earn? So that's based on your overheads, your cost of your insurance, your vehicle, the distance to the gig, travel costs, expenses. All those factors need to be considered. And then what would be left after you've paid all that? What would be left out of that fee for you? And that's your hourly rate. So let's say, for example, your hourly rate is £50 or $50 per hour. That's just a hypothetical figure. It could be higher, it could be lower. You take a gig that's £70 and your overheads are £40, and you're only going to be left with 30, which means you're lowering your hourly rate. So that's just an example of how you can price yourself. What price do you want to go out for, or what price do you need, and then put the markup on top of that. So a good way of doing that is just literally go through acts that are similar to yours, or go to venues and just ask. Go on their website, they'll see the prices there. And then pitch yourself according to that. So pitch yourself as at the highest rate. And I won't say the highest rate comfortable, because you'd probably end up being comfortable with a lower rate, because most people, when it comes down to it, they will go lower rather than higher, because they think, musicians are renowned for, creative people, artists are kind of renowned for undervaluing themselves. Not everyone, I'm generalizing, of course, but more often than not, people will tend to, oh, well, because I love doing it anyway, because I love just playing, I'll do it for nothing. But, okay, well, I'll accept this much money. But, so you really have to be a bit more hard-nosed about it. If, of course, you're doing it professionally. If you're just doing it as a hobby, then fine. But the thing with accepting lower prices all the time is the erosion that it will have on your own self-worth, because you'll put yourself then in that category of, psychologically, I won't be able to charge more because no one will book me. And that's true, because you haven't tried. And yes, you will end up losing gigs. But if you really want to climb out and position yourself in a much, in the higher bracket, then you'll have to deal with that uncomfortableness and deal with that loss of earnings for a while. But the payoff is, of course, you're then in a different bracket. So the competition is less. The competition is more fierce in the lower bracket because of the aforementioned things that I said. Most people are in that, and they'll psychologically put themselves in that situation. So there's lots more people competing with those gigs, and the venues that you go to as well will be expecting that, because they'll go, well, if you don't have it, then they know there's going to be a queue of people behind you who will take that low paid gig, so it doesn't matter to them. But what also happens with that is the quality of the acts goes down, which means the people who actually come out to watch the acts either aren't interested in the music, so will talk all over it, or they're kind of the numbers will dwindle because the word will get around that the acts aren't very good, so people won't bother going. So in some ways, the venues are again thinking from a scarcity point of view. Like the less we pay, the more money we make. Maybe in the short term, as a venue, you would make more money on that one night. Maybe you might make a bit more profit, but over time, people will stop coming, or the opposite will be that you get more people coming, but the wrong people coming, people who aren't really interested in music, people who aren't really a higher quality customer, and then you've got different problems then as a venue owner. So really, it's one of those, you really have to, if you're self-employed, obviously a venue's not going to give you more and go, oh, actually, you're worth far more than that, I'm going to give you more. A very rare occasion that's going to happen. So you have to be the one who values yourself. And you have to be honest with yourself. Like I'm being honest with myself as well. Am I worth that? Can I justify that price? Now, what will also happen is when you raise your prices is that just like your reputation of being a lower priced artist will get around, then so your reputation as being a higher priced artist will go around. And I remember hearing a conversation. Somebody used to be in marketing would say that when they hired in a consultant, there was one for £350, there was one for £500, and without really thinking, they went and booked the £500 consultant. When I asked them why, they simply said, well, he was obviously better because his price was higher. They hadn't done any research on that consultant. They hadn't looked at what they were offering. They just purely went by the figures. That the £500 guy was, of course, was going to be better than the £350 guy because of the price. And you can look at your own judgment on that. Look at when you've been shopping, or when you've bought a service. Maybe you've hired a musician, or let's keep it relevant to that, or a tradesman or woman. You're always going to think the £1,000 guy is going to be much better than the £500 guy. Why? What are you basing that on? And why is the £1,000 guy £1,000 and the £500 guy is £500 guy? It's up here, isn't it? It's the way they perceive themselves. It's the way they have positioned themselves. At one point, you don't start out like that. A lot of people don't start out at £1,000 or whatever they go at the higher end of the market. People build up to it, and that's what you need to do. Wherever you're at now, build up slowly. So a good rule of thumb could be between 20 and 30%. Raise your prices 20-30% every quarter. So 4 times a year, 3 or 4 times a year. Raise your prices and do it gradually. Obviously, if you go from being a £100 guy to £1,000, that's too much. You know, it's going to be too much of a jar and too much to do, and people won't really respond to that. I mean, I'm saying that, I don't know, I've never done it, but in order to be seamless, and you improve as you go along and you raise your prices. Now, and again, of course it's about skill. It's about delivering a good show and putting on a good service. Now we're taking that as read, but really the only thing that's stopping you becoming the £1,000 guy or the £2,000 guy or girl is you. And of course, if you're going to miss out on gigs if you price too high, or if you say it's too high, or if you're pricing higher. But if you think about it, it works out, because if you're charging £1,000, you'd need to get 5 £200 gigs or 4 £250 gigs to just get that one. So if you just get the one at £1,000, you haven't got to do those 4 or 5 gigs. You can lose those 4 or 5 gigs. You can miss them. And you just get the one to go £1,000. And then when you get one at £1,000, then you know you can get more. You only have to do it once. You only have to get the once. And the word gets around. Your confidence will raise. Psychologically, you'll go, so if that's possible, what's the next one? It's like the 4-minute mile, isn't it? For years and years, people said you couldn't run a 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister did it. Within a year, everyone was doing it. Or many more people broke the 4-minute mile barrier because someone showed it was possible. When it's possible and the mind can conceive it, then the body can achieve it. And it's like that with marketing and raising your prices. If you once you get that target, once you get a price that you're probably uncomfortable with, you know you can do it again. So a good strategy for doing that is you can just raise your prices, keep doing the same service, but raising your prices. But what I'd suggest is to price high and justify, because when you go in at a higher price, they're automatically going to go, well, so-and-so will do it for half that. You go, okay, but does so-and-so do this? I provide this service. So let's say, for example, you're like me, a guitar vocal act, and you play in restaurants and bars and places like that. And usually they'll have a budget, so there's only a certain amount of price that they'll go to. But let's say you're doing weddings or you're doing private functions, okay? Now they'll say, well, you know, so-and-so does it for a lot less than that. They'll go, okay, but then you can say, well, I offer this. So you could, I mean, here's some ideas. You could offer to support yourself. So you could put 2 acts on for the price of 1. So, for example, if you're playing like me, you can do like live, you can do guitar vocal, and you're playing like a variety of cover versions that people enjoy. So that's kind of your 1 act. Then you could do if you played another instrument, you could do like an instrumental act. Maybe if you played the piano, you could do instrumentals. It's like another set of that. So you're getting 2 different acts for the price of 1. You could do a tribute act if you did that, or even a duo. So if you had a small band, you could, so you could add value, but don't lower the price, increase the value. Price high and justify that. You could also add a DJ service as well. So if you go, I mean, nowadays you only really need a laptop or even a pen drive to put in your mixing desk and just select. You could do it off your phone. Put together a set list, a playlist, or different varieties of playlists, like a disco or a wedding or a mix or whatever it is. So you've got loads of songs and playlists all ready to go, and then just whack that in. It's background music, or if you've got a decent sound system, you can have a proper DJ system. So you could do that, and that's not any extra effort really, because you're already at the venue. You haven't got to do any extra marketing. All you've got to do is spend extra time. You're already there. So that's a great way of doubling up, and it's adding something that not other people are doing. And as soon as you start doing that, you give them a reason why they should pay that money instead of giving them a reason to pay you less. Then you're onto something. You could also look at block booking, if that's another way of doing it, to secure more gigs. So you say, instead of doing one-off gigs, you can say, okay, well, if you book me for a year, I'll give you this price, a certain price, like a reduction, but still earning more, but you're getting paid more in the long term, and you're securing more work. So there's many different ways of doing this, and the idea is to approach it very much like you are, like it's a bit of a game. So testing yourself, challenging yourself, how much can you increase your prices by? How much value can you think about adding? What new services can you add to your existing service to bring you more money? So that might be, when you're out gigging or when you're listening to people, keep your ears open, because people might be giving you clues. Might be saying, oh, I wish I could get this sort of act, or I saw this thing the other day and it was brilliant, but I haven't seen it since. And just things like that, little kind of ideas that you can get. And of course, try things out. Not everything's going to work, and as they say in Silicon Valley, they fail early, fail quicker, because the quicker you get a failure and get over it, then the sooner you can get to the success. because it's just pure maths. It's just pure mathematics. The more you keep trying things, you know, the more you increase chances of getting a success. You might not hit the mark every time, and of course you won't, but your average goes up. You only need one of those acts to really take off, and then you're onto something. You know, I know a guy who many years ago he did a balloon, what they call a balloon act now. It's quite common now, but at the time apparently it wasn't. It's an interesting story for me anyway. And it's a balloon act where you get a big balloon and you put it over your head and then you climb in the balloon. And a few years ago, no one was doing that, or very few people were doing it. So he started doing it, and he was putting on a show, like half an hour, 45 minutes, and he was doing well. The guy said to him, if you reduce your act to 5 minutes, I'll get you all the gigs you want, and you'll be earning thousands of pounds. And of course, he thought, well, that doesn't make sense. Doing less and getting paid more. But he did it. And guess what? It happened. He was getting very high-priced corporate gigs, and he still does them now. 5 minutes. His show is 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And he gets paid hundreds and thousands. Not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds for some gigs, 1,000 for others. Plus, a lot of these places are global, so he gets all expenses paid. 5-minute act. Brilliant. So think about that. Think about ways you could be doing, what things could you be doing that's different? Start another act. How you could present yourself in that act. If you can niche down, if you could be more specific with your act, would that work? So you're a kind of a bigger fish in a smaller pond. So instead of copying what everyone else is doing, try something different. And of course, as I said, it might not work straight away, but that's the beauty of it. You're going to be practicing and trying, and something will stick. So I hope you found this helpful. It's certainly something you can apply to any act, really, any business, really. And also maybe trying different places. Now, if you're trying the same venues and they've all got a certain amount of budget and they want a certain kind of act, then vary your venues. Try different venues. Try more educational things, maybe libraries or schools, youth clubs, colleges, churches, businesses, football clubs. Now, a lot of people will use agencies when they book in entertainment, so they might not give you the time of day. They want to book through an agency. They don't want to have to negotiate with you. They just find it easier, and that's happening more often than not. But again, you only need one to take you on. And also, there's nothing to stop you setting up your own agency. If you became your own agent, booking gigs, create an agency, and then call venues with that as an agent, with your agent hat on, and book yourself. It doesn't matter. You can have other acts on the roster, but say you're a new agency, I can recommend this act, and it's you. Change the name of the act. Doesn't matter. It's all the way things are perceived. It's all the way you position yourself and the way you come across. I think you'll agree that persuasion and positioning, confidence is the way people work, especially in the entertainment business. It's all smoke and mirrors, It's all smoke and mirrors, and it's all appearance. And of course, if you've been on a TV show or had anything like that, then your prices go up as well. That's another way you can justify it. I think that's why a lot of people also, nowadays, they go on shows like The X Factor and The Voice, shows like that. It can be a smart move in some ways because it raises your profile. Now, if you go at it like that, then it's more likely to work for you. If you're looking at it, well, I'm probably not going to win this, and even if I do, I'm not looking at being a megastar. But if you got on the televised rounds, even if you went out the first round, you've got yourself a free, very professional looking showreel, right? That's been on TV, which you can use. Millions of people watch those programs, even at the beginning stages. So even if you get 500,000 views, suddenly your profile's raised. Then you can go to agents and go, look, they might have already seen you. They might already call you if you're. And then, you know, as seen on TV, as seen on The Voice, blah, blah, blah. So you can make that kind of thing work for you as well without having to win the thing. And I think that's what people get hung up on nowadays, going, oh, you know, The Voice doesn't produce any kind of superstars or anything like that. It's not, well, today's world isn't really like that. If you've got your ducks in a row, if you've got your social media set up and you've got ways of capturing people's emails and making the most, leveraging those viewing, then just even getting on the first stages of a show like that could really set you off, because then you've got a fan base almost instantly. Even if you get a couple of thousand fans, or even if you've got a couple of hundred, that's more than you'd get if you didn't go on there. And as long as you didn't make a complete fool of yourself on the show, then it could be a good move. Anyway, these are all great ideas I think I'm coming up with. Maybe you've thought of them, maybe you've done them. It'd be great to hear your experiences with any of this that I've talked about tonight. Drop your comments down below. Be sure to hit the like button and let me know you're there. And subscribe to the channel, click the little bell, and it'll tell you when I'm doing the next